Okay, welcome everybody. Baruch Hashem, we're here at Living Chassidus again. Um, just a short intro in case this is their first time at Living Chassidus. We are a Chabad house here in Crown Heights. We, Baruch Hashem, take great care and do programming and everything we can for the single and the newly married ladies of Crown Heights. My husband runs a separate men's division. Um, and as part of that, we do a lot of what is befitting to our name is that concept of living Chassidus. When people were in seminary or in school, many times they spend a lot of time learning Chassidus, but once we're out in the world, we have to learn how to integrate both parts. And I think that's part of what led to this course being brought to living Chassidus is the aspect that many of us, once we finish seminary or once, Baruch Hashem, we get married, we have children, as you see, my new daughter, there's certain aspects of the Chassidish lifestyle that we have to learn how to integrate and how to live with in a good, healthy, wholesome Chassidish way. So davening was one of my favorite things of all time, especially in seminary. And once I got married several years ago, once I have several children, it was harder to still feel that inspiration and still feel that connection to the words of davening when I'm just trying to kind of run through the day, survive the morning, and all of that. So in the summer, we hosted a program where we asked what people would like to learn more about, and the topic of davening came up. And many years ago, Baruch Hashem, I had the great zchus of finding a course that was taught by Rabbi Kaplan on Chabad.org. I think it's called Discussions on Tfilah or Discussions on Davening, I'm pretty sure. And I loved it. I would go through it. I would open up a siddur, take notes from everything he said. And in my mind, I always had Rabbi Kaplan's words and everything he taught during that course in my mind when I was davening. And then his siddur came out. He actually published both of them. So that's the picture of the siddur that's in the flyer that we made. And now, Baruch Hashem, we have the great zchus of hearing from Rabbi Kaplan himself. So I will let me just do the settings. And here we go. I should. Okay. Right, Kaplan, can you?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
I'm on mute. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And I say that unequivocally, because anytime, any place that I can talk about Tfilah, I am only too delighted to do it. It's a passion of mine, as apparently it is of yours, and really should be a passion for all Chassidim, because Chassidus is about davening. People may think that Chassidus is about learning abstract concepts, Ishtalshalos, safe and Tzimtzum, and you name it, Adam Kadmon, all different things that we are familiar with that we learn at Chassidus. And it's a huge area of knowledge, information, understanding, and that's all true. But the objective of all of that Chassidus is to inspire our davening. I use the following, whether it's legitimate or not, I can't tell you, but that Chassidus is really an explanation of Tfilah. That's what Chassidus is. If you look in the Maimorim, particularly the Maimorim of the Rebbe, there's hardly a Maimor which the Rebbe doesn't explain the inyan of Tfilah. And sometimes 2 inyanim, 3 inyanim in a single Maimor. And it goes all the way back to the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe. All of them had an enormous amount to say about Tfilah Tzemach Tzedek. It's an unlimited amount of what you have on Tfilah. if you were to collect all of the pirushim that you have in Chassidus on Tfilah, it wouldn't be 2 svarim, it would be 25 svarim. We curated or collected about 1,000 pieces in the Siddurim, but it's out of tens of thousands that could have been included there. So why I have a passion for Tfilah, I really can't tell you. It's something that I was attracted to, even when I was a Talmud in yeshiva. I was focused on davening, and I've been doing it all my life. So Tfilah is a very central part of my Chassidish persona. And having the opportunity now to speak to some additional people about not only just the importance of Tfilah, but to talk about what some of the meat and potatoes. We're not novices here, people that have exposure to davening, to some of understanding of davening. And so I'm only too happy to be here. The reason that I published the Siddurim is precisely because I saw how little people really associated what they learned in Chassidus to davening. When we completed the Siddur, I was looking for haskamas for the Siddur. I went to the well-known Mashgiach of Teravidas, Moshe Wolfson, and I asked him to give us a haskama on the Siddur, because I thought it would give it a certain credibility. Although he was not a chassid per se, he certainly was a chassid of the Rebbe. He went over it and he said, absolutely, no question, he's maskim to everything, and he wrote a very nice letter endorsing it. But after we finished, he said, can I ask you a question? I said, okay. He said, why is it that in Lubavitch, where Tfilah is such a crucial part of what Chassidus Chabad is, and yet in Lubavitch, davening is so diminished, offhanded, unserious? Whatever answer I gave him, but it's a painful question when it comes from someone like that who understands what Chassidus is and what davening should be, and you look around at what our state of davening is today, and it's a poor reflection of what the Rabbeim really wanted from us in Tfilah. Now, I look at the educational system that we have, and that's partially to blame for why Tfilah is the way it is, because we spend so much time. Let's start with the boys first. I'm not sure about the girls, but the boys learn so much of Gemara and Mishnayos and Chassidus, but no one really teaches Tfilah. It's sort of supposed to be something that you pick up by osmosis. No, it doesn't happen. And if you really think about how much time you will eventually, an adult will eventually spend with Gemara or even with Maimorim of Chassidus, as opposed to Tfilah. So a person will learn a few hours a week, halavai, a few hours a week they learn, and maybe an hour a day. If you take the time that you're davening, it's 10, 12 hours a week. So the whole educational system is skewed towards something which will have a little bit of value during your lifetime and ignores what is the most important part that you will engage during your lifetime. And I guess by the women's education is probably something similar, whether you focus on Chumash or Tanakh, and all different kinds of things that you focus on. Yeah, but you spend more time on Tfilah than everything else. I will share with you the yechidus that my mother-in-law, Mrs. Chaya Hech, had with the Rebbe. I think it was in Tafshin Yud Beis, Tafshin Yud Gimel, one of those years. No, it couldn't have been that. It was Yud Dalet. The Rebbe asked her if she davens. And as a young mother with two children, she sort of fum-fed. She, a little bit. She says, "Bracha," whatever she could obfuscate about what the condition really was. And the Rebbe said to her, "If you would ask me, I would encourage you to daven every day, and if you have to hire help in order to be able to have the time to daven." That's what the Rebbe told her. When you think about it, to hire help in order to have the time to daven. And that the Rebbe was telling to a young mother. That gives you an idea of how the Rebbe viewed the importance of tefillah in women's davening as well. So being exposed to this, it bothers me a lot. And I know what the problem is. The problem is that people don't associate their learning of Chassidus to their davening. When you learn Chassidus, and the Maimon brings down a posik and uses that as a support for a certain explanation, you learn it, and okay, that's what it says. You know it. You write it on the test, and you get a good mark. But then when you daven and you come across that exact pasuk, you're not thinking cross-referencing. Whoa, that was Nemaima. So what does that mean now here? How does that fit into what I'm saying? That's what I call Pirush HaMilos al Pi Chassidus. We're not talking about the concept of Tfilah, Avodas HaTfilah, Tfilah Ba'arichos, with very extensive davening, which took a lot of contemplation and hours of work. That's not what we're talking about. That is unfortunately probably a lost art. What we're talking about is simply understanding the words of Tfilah as they are explained in Chassidus. And it's a whole different world. Because part of the problem that you have, and I'm sure we know Pirush HaMilos, you learn it in school, you have English translations, or you have the interpolation of the Siddur and the translations. It's not, you know what the word means, but what does that mean? So what does that mean? I can touch the words, but it seems like all of Tfilah is highly repetitive. This way, that way, another shevach, another this way, over and over and over and over and over again. And so you sort of become dull towards it, and you just go through it because the words don't have meaning. And then what happens is, then you have machshava, the mind begins to travel. I knew a rabbi, a Litvish rabbi, he once said he never had the kind of travel that he has during Shemona Esrei. He's all over the world during Shemona Esrei. The most enjoyable trips that he takes is during davening. All of a sudden you start thinking, and you wake up, you're 3 halalukas further. I did say, I probably said it because I turned the page. I must be there. And there's a reason for that. The reason is machshove can't sit idle. You can't stop thinking. You can stop talking once in a while, but you can't stop thinking. So if your mind doesn't have something to think about, it wanders. It goes on a trip. It associates this to this to this to that. All of a sudden you're thinking about who knows what when you're in the middle of davening. And why is it? It's because your machshava is not there. Why is your machshava not there? Because you have nothing to think about. What can you think about the word, for example, Baruch, blessed? Blessed, okay, blessed. No, so what? Now you look at, you say, see this? Just take that word. Baruch means hamshocha, to draw down. Why do we have to draw down? What are we drawing down? Ata Hashem, it's something you can think about. It preoccupies your mind. So therefore your mind is thinking about the davening. So the problem that there is that you don't have enough chomer in your mind when you're thinking about, when you're reading the words, to engage your mind. And so you drift off into different places. So what I was trying to do is to give people the chomer, the material that they know, have familiarity with. We're not teaching people through the Siddur. They have familiarity with the concepts, with the ideas, and just to bring it into the proximity of the Siddur, so that you begin and you build. One time I look at Pirush, I make a mark, I come back next time, I think it again, think it through a third time, you add another piece, and you have reminders because you're in the Siddur. You can daven from that Siddur. Or you make a cross-reference to the Siddur that you do daven in. So this way you connect the Chassidus with the davening. And once you've connected the Chassidus to the davening, you're in the ballpark, at least, of davening with proper machshava and kavanah. So let me take this back a step earlier. The first thing you have to know is you have to know how to enunciate the words properly. You have to be able to read properly. When you listen to people and they daven, half of the words are garbled words, not distinct individual words. There's a famous story with the Tzemach Tzedek, I'm sure you've heard it, that one of the sons of the Tzemach Tzedek was talking to his mother. Rabbi Tzemach was a big Tehillim sayer, and she complained to him that she's been saying Tehillim for so many years, and she doesn't know Tehillim by heart. She would expect that after so many years, she would know Tehillim by heart. So her son said to her, there's a reason for it. The reason is because every time you make new mistakes, so it's a different Tehillim every time. You're not repeating the same Tehillim. She was deeply hurt by it, and she went to the Tzemach Tzedek and shared what happened. The Tzemach Tzedek called in his son, and he really gave him a bawling out, as we used to say. Hayitachn, he would say something like that to his mother. The Tzemach Tzedek said, when I was in Petersburg, and my life was in Sakona, do you know what saved me? What saved me was your mother's Tehillim. And he made his son go back and apologize to her for what he said. So we have the same thing in davening. Why doesn't everybody know davening by heart? You're davening for 2 years, 5 years. You said davening 100, 200, 500, 1,000 times. Why did you know by heart? You know why? Because you make different mistakes every time. So you can't get it into your brain. Now, of course, not everybody makes mistakes in every word that they read, or even many common words, but often it's a combination of words being misread. It's phraseology. Tehillim is built on phraseology. Everything is a phrase. Generally, a pasuk is divided into two, and each side is subdivided into two as well. And you have to put these phrases together to have the cadence of the Tehillim. If you daven this way, yes, you will know it by heart, because you're repeating it always with precision and the same way with the same cadence. And people don't spend time with that. They don't think it's important. It's important, to be able to really feel the flow of the words, the symmetry, the poetry, which is the physical aspect of it, but that's there in Tehillim too. In addition to understanding the Pirush HaMilas, when you have it in proper phraseology, then you really are following proper Pirush HaMilas. So you have to start, the beginning has to be to know how to say the words completely and accurately, and not megumgum, I've always said that what's the longest word in Hebrew? Baruch Hashem Eloheinu Le'olam. Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. It's the longest word in Hebrew. Because anybody said it, they're saying it as one word. That doesn't work for davening. So it's hard to hear yourself and to be able to pick up the problems that you have in simply enunciating tefillah. So what I recommend, actually I did it to someone just yesterday, that they say they daven with a tape recorder once. And then go over piece by piece and look in the Siddur and listen to yourself. And make markings, and you'll see the words that you're swallowing, the words that you're not pronunciating right, the phrases that you're saying wrong. All of a sudden, you'll see it in yourself, and then you can work on putting it together properly. So that's a person you want to learn how to daven. Step number one, and together with that is looking inside the Siddur. We all know the Rebbe didn't say a single bracha outside of the Siddur. Do you think the Rebbe knew the Siddur by heart? The Rebbe could say the Siddur backwards by heart. So why did he insist that he has to say every bracha, a bracha has to be from inside? Because oisiyos machkimos, the letters and words of Torah have kedusha, they have holiness. And when you look at the words, you are looking at kedusha, at holiness, which is rebounding to you. In addition to which, when you look at the words, you're focusing your mind on the words. I will be very honest and unembarrassed to tell you that I literally read the words. I don't just look at the words. I read the words in my mind like a second grader. Not only is there nothing wrong with it, it keeps your attention on the words of Tfilah. And it gives you the kedusha of the words. Incidentally, which is why I am very much against davening from a cell phone. A cell phone doesn't have real words. It's not oisius tamis. It doesn't have kedusha, and it doesn't accomplish what you need, beruchnis, when you're looking at the actual words of a sefer, diyoy ala klaf, print on a page. So you have to daven from a siddur, and you have to read the words. Especially when it comes to Shmoneh Esrei, you actually read the words like you did when you were a child. The Rashba, when the Rashba was asked about his kavonos and tefillah, what he means when he davens to Hashem, whom is he thinking of? The Rashba was a makubal. The Rashba answered, Ani mispalel ledas hatinek. I daven to that Eibishter that the child davens to. I don't think a high sophisticated, a child davens and he thinks Eibishter. That's how I think Eibishter. And they with the Rashba. That's why I say there's nothing degrading about reading the words, looking at the words, reading the words. That's really where you start at the foundation of tefillah. Now we'll move up. Machshava. So there, what I was talking about before is machshava. Second stage, machshava. So if you read properly, it helps you focus the machshava, but you have to have chomer in the machshava. And what does that mean? So everything in this world is made up, has to, not everything in the world, in a human being, has to have chayis. We are living beings. How do our words live? What makes our words not just computer-generated words, but living words? Machshava. Machshava is the chayis of dibur. If you want to have animated words, you have to think. You can repeat words by heart because you know it so well, you can just blubber out the words, and it sounds like a computer. There's no chayis in the words because there's no machshava. Machshava is what gives life to dibur. So if you want to have life in the words, so for example, now we're all familiar with what the Baal Shem Tov says on Boya La Teva. Baal Shem Tov says Boya La Teva. Teva means the words of davening. So Boya La Teva means go into the words of davening. Did you ever try climbing into a siddur? How do you get into the words of davening? You know, we chaza this that the Baal Shem Tov said. So what's it supposed to mean? How do you get into a word of davening? A word is a word on a page. A word is an expressed word. How do you get into it? The answer is, as the Rebbe says this, through machshava. When you put machshava, which is the life-giving force, into dibur, so then you are in the words. Your energy is in the words. So you have gotten into the words of Tfilah. But if your machshava is not there, you're not there. So a parrot can say the same thing that you're saying. So machshava is the life force of Tfilah. So now, how do you occupy the machshava? You occupy the machshava. Actually, if you want to go even higher than this, it has to go first to midas. What gives life to machshava? A midas. The Rebbe says in Tanya, every machshava has a midah behind it. You can't have a machshava without a midah. You have to have some connection to something that you think about. So you have to have a feeling for it. In order to have feeling, what's the highest of feeling? Is seichel, is intelligence, or the intelligence directly to machshava. But that's where you've got to be working in order to have tefillah. So when you take a pirush that we have in tefillah, and you're thinking about it when you're saying the words of tefillah, so then you have machshava, and the machshava gives the dibur and energy. So then you are inside of the tefillah. Then you are davening. And that's the goal that we have to establish. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's training. It's repetition to focus on it, to work on it. And after a while, it begins to get that way. That you can hear when somebody davens. That once was Tzvi Friedman, if you know who he is, Chabad Arog, he does a lot of writing. He once said that, he told this to me, I'm not sure if he ever said it, if he wrote about it, I probably did, that Chaim Reutblatt, who was a Chassidus Yid, who was one of the founders of all the Torah, was davening. And he was standing next to him as about Tshuva just began the process of really immersion in the Yiddishkeit. And he heard him say, Mashlich karfeich lefitim ifnei korosoi miyamoid. And he felt a chill going down his bones. He throws his ice, so we're getting that soon. Maybe it's Hashem a day or two. The cold we have already. The Mashlich karfeich lefitim ifnei korosoi miyamoid, who can withstand his cold? He said it with such fervor and feeling that he was listening and he felt a chill. He felt the cold. That's what it means to experience the words of Tfilah. And that's just in a simple Pirush Hamilas. But then when you start with a little bit of more sophisticated understanding of Tfilah, you're in a whole different world. You automatically, a machshava is there, and automatically you say it differently. The words are loud, the words are alive. So that's what is the goal of what at least I was trying to do in order to, with the Siddurim, and with the classes as well. There were the various classes that I have in Chabad.org. That was my goal, to try and share what I have acquired with other people as well. So that's just as a little bit of an overview. But I do want to give you a little bit. I'll give you an overview of Tfilah, where Chassidus deals with it, and it's not the specific psukim, but at least the overarching structure that we have. And it's this material that I have in both Siddurim. I have essays in the back where I lay these things out to some degree. So if you have the Siddur, you have access to the Siddur, you can look at the back and you'll get a lot of this material. In the world, we have Doimim Tzemeach Chayim Medaber. 4 categories of existence: inanimate, plant, animal, and human. Tfilah also goes through these 4 stages for Shachris particularly. So what do we start with? We start with Davening. What does Davening mean? How does Davening fit into Tfilah? Davening is Moida. The meaning of Moida, the way we say the meaning of Moida, in the English translation will be, I admit, I concede, or I give thanks. The more common is, I give thanks. What does thanks have to do with admitting? What's one to do with the other? It's one word, and they come up with these 2 different interpretations. How are they sitting inside quietly inside one word? How do they get along there? The answer is, what does thanksgiving mean? When you say thank you to someone, what are you doing? You're putting yourself into an inferior position and acknowledging a superior position. I thank you because you did something for me. So I was lacking, I was needy, and you were giving. I'm in the submissive position. That's what Hidah is. Hidah means to admit to be submissive. And when you are submissive, you don't have to say anything. It doesn't require thought. It doesn't require argumentation. I agree. You're right. That's all. That's Hidah. That is the domain level of Tfilah. When we say Meida Ani Lefanecha, you're not sure who the Ani is completely. You don't know who the Lefanecha is, but you do know Meida. The famous story with the Rebbe, one of the Baal Tshuva asked the Rebbetzin what the Rebbe's favorite Tfilah is. And to her surprise, the Rebbetzin said, I'll ask him. Come back tomorrow and I'll tell you. And she came back the next day and she said she asked the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said his favorite tefillah is Meida Ani. For those who know, Inyan Chassidus was all built, and the Rebbe said a whole Tafshin, 50 years now, Tafshin Chavav, which is Kislev Tafshin Chavav, that whole extraordinary set of sichas, which was a new chiddush in the whole Inyan, was all about Meida Ani. The Rebbe explained Meida Ani and Pshat Rebbe's Drush and Seid and Chassidus, and showed the way Chassidus illuminates all of them. Anyway, so the beginning is focus on Hidah, simply to acknowledge HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what we're trying to do. Acknowledgement. That takes us all the way to Baruch She'amar. Why there are different parts in it is not for now. We're here to begin the discussion. But I want to do one thing, is to show you something about Hidah. Because someone asked here, how does Hidah lead to Psukei Zimra? Hidah is to most people a mystery. It comes from Divrei Yomim, at least part of the first 2 parts of it, and it just seems like a jumble of psukim thrown together. Somebody had a whole bunch of psukim on pieces of paper and put it into a spinner and spun it around and pulled out and made, here we have a whole series of... So the key to Hidah. The key to Hidah is there are 2 parts to Hidah, 3 parts to Hidah. I'm going to talk about the first 2 parts. The first 2 parts, first section, is from Hidah until Umemshichai Al Toreu. That was what David HaMelech composed to be said for the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar. The Leviim sang that during until the after the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, and why they changed is another whole reason. But that was what David HaMelech composed for the Leviim to sing for the Korban Shel Shachar. The second part, from Shir Lashem Shir Chadash, until V'amar Kol Ha'am Hallelujah, that was what David HaMelech composed for the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbayim, for the afternoon Korban Tamid, for the Leviim to sing. So what were they doing here? What was the singing about with the Tamid Shel Shachar and Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbayim? Time really has two sections. When you say time has two sections, it sounds rather odd, but think about it. Time has a past, and time is a future. How long is the present? A nanosecond. That's what the present is. Time is really past and future. Because once that nanosecond passes, it's now in the past. If it hasn't come yet, it's still in the future. So really, the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar, the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbayim are really encompassing the entirety of time. It's the two phases of time. In the context that we're talking about of Avodas Hashem, the two phases of time are the time before Mashiach and after Mashiach. Those are the two phases of time. So one is to deal with the past, with history, and what will happen all the way through, and one deals with what will happen in the future, Yemei Mashiach. Those are our two paradigms of time. So Hidul Hashem begins talking about first introducing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we have to acknowledge HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then we talk about, I won't go into the details of where it is in every pasuk. You have to understand what the psukim is saying. We're talking about the Neflois HaKadosh Baruch Hu did Brias Shemayim Ba'oretz, which is called Mishpatei Fiv. We're talking about even the nature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in the world was all as a result of Yisrael. And then we begin with the early development of Bnei Yisrael, which is the Avos. So the bris of Torah and the bris of Eretz Yisrael, which was made with the three Avos, and the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them Eretz Yisrael and protected them. That's our past. That's Tamid Shel Shachar. Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbayim is Shirul Hashem Shir Chadash. Then we will sing a new song to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Basra Miyayim Liyayim Yeshuasi, day by day, we have the Yeshua. Don't think that the Yeshua is only at the end of time when Mashiach comes. We're making the Yeshua every single day. Basra Miyayim Liyayim Yeshuasi, day by day, we're creating the Yeshua. We're moving, we're building towards Yemei Mashiach. And then we go through with that what will happen in the world, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu would judge the world. And ultimately the end of that is to say Hallel Hashem, which is to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, which we are doing. That's a little bit of a synopsis of those first two parts. The rest are additions that were made later. Why and what is another story. So that's part of acknowledgement. Haidah. Simply acknowledge, whether you like it, don't like it, know it, don't know it, acknowledge. We have the ability within us, the doimim shebenefesh, the inanimate of the nefesh is capable of simply saying, Kadosh Baruch Hu, we submit to you unequivocally. Then comes the second part, Baruch She'oma. It's called Psukkah de Zimra because we're moving from the inanimate to the world of plant, which is the life world. What gives words life? Song. Song is made to give notes and words life. And that's what plant life is. It's be'emes a doimen. It's be'emes an inanimate. It's words. The words are inanimate. But no, when you put the words and do zemer, you put song into the words, then you have living words. Psukkah de Zimra is the hallelujahs. Ashrei Nalalukas. Why? Because it's the meter of the words, it's the song, the poetic structure of the words, and that is the foundation of song that we have. So Psukkah de Zimra is there to create the second level within the realm of Tfilah, which is the living plant. That takes us all the way through to Birchas Kriyas Shema. Kriyas Shema is already getting into the level of Chai. What are we talking about in Kriyas Shema? We talk about the Malachim. What are the Malachim? The Chayis HaKodesh. What is that about? It's about acknowledging HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the Boirei Olam. But that is that aspect of intelligence that is to drive emotion. That's what it is. Because we have to have V'ahavta L'Hashem Elokecha. At the time in B'kayim V'ahavta L'Hashem Elokecha is the time of Kriyas Shema, and this way is why Ava and Yira are so different. Because Yira Shemaim you have to have continuously. Ava you can't have continuously. Ava has to be focused in a particular time when you're going to have Ava. You can't walk around all day in love with God. What are you going to do? Ava preoccupies you. So we have Ava, we have Kriyas Shema, so you have to build up to that. To build up like Kadosh Baruch Hu, the way the Malachim relate to Kadosh Baruch Hu, where Kadosh Baruch Hu chose us even greater than the Malachim. Ava Sayla Mahavtonu, you loved us with an unlimited love. Why are we saying that? The Rebbe explains in Tanya, because we're trying to be reciprocal, to reciprocate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If he has Ava for us, we will reciprocate with an Ava. What does Yisera mean? A great mercy and even more. What's the even more? More than the Malachim. Malachim are the ones that scream Kaddish, 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 and Baruch. They're in rapture. You would think that the Rabbeinu Shalom said, wow, look at these Malachim. They're incredible. Wow, I'm so happy with these Malachim. It's not so. You look through the whole Tanakh. Does it ever say anywhere the Eibishter loves Malachim? Doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, they're holy beings, but the Eibishter doesn't love them. With all of that tumul and humul and rapture, the Eibishter doesn't love them. But what does he do? He loves us. You loved us. How much did you love us? More than you love the Malachim. I love you. I chose Bnei Yisrael over all the Ishtalshalos, from all the way up from Lifnei Atzimtzum and Odom Kadmon and where else you want, and Toyo and Tikkun. And what the Eibishter want? I want my Yid who says a few words to me. That's what the Eibishter wants. No, if the Eibishter has this Abba for us, should we remain passive towards him? Indifferent towards him? And how do we know the Eibishter has such a love? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't. What's the proof? The proof is exactly who we are. Why did he have to make everybody so different? He made Malachim, he made huge categories. You have Malachim, which are Michael, the troops of Michael, Gavriel, they're all the same. They march in unison. Millions of billions of Malachim, and they're all just copies of the previous. In which category they are, that's where they are. And the Eibishter took people, and he made them all different. Why? He could have made us all look exactly the same, clones. Why do you have to make us different? Because the Bechira of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he chose us, which is what we say, what does it mean he chose us? It's not just he chose us as a people which is distinct. He chose us as individuals who are distinct. Why did he need someone looking this way and someone looking this way and someone having a personality like this and someone having a personality like this? Because he cared about it. If he didn't care about it, you make it all the same. What's the difference between a machine-made item and a handcrafted item? Why do you pay more for a handcrafted item than you pay for a machine item? The answer is because a machine-made item is a copycat item. It has no individuality. It has no distinction. And so what? Okay, what it is, what it is. When you have something which is handcrafted, every time it's made differently. So there is more personality that's invested in a handcrafted item than you have in a machine-produced item. So that's why we value it more. HaKadosh Baruch Hu went and handcrafted each and every one of us exactly as we are, with all the particulars and foibles. What am I? The word I'm looking for? Foibles. With all of the foibles that we have, whatever it is that our particular personality and appearance and body has, it's unique. Why is it unique? Because the Eibishter chose this particular person in this particular way. Uvano v'charta, you chose us. And you chose us because you love us. So Rabbeinu Shalom, we want to reciprocate that Ava. That's what we want to do. That's what we have in Kriyas Shema. So Kriyas Shema is already emotion, drawing in our emotion. That's the animalistic level. And finally, we go to Shmoneh Esrei. And Shmoneh Esrei is Ka'avda Kamamora, which here is a little bit of an anomaly thing. We would think that you come into the level of Adam, so Adam would be the great thinker. We should have philosophical statements in the Shmoneh Esrei about most abstract of things where only geniuses can think about them. And Shmoneh Esrei seems to be pretty pedestrian. We stand and we speak quietly before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because the ultimate quality of an Adam is bittul. To be able to nullify yourself. That's the real quality of an Adam. Try and tell a behemoth, try and tell an animal not to make so much noise. Someone is sleeping nearby. Stop being such a bulvan. No. An animal, he cannot limit himself. Whatever he is, he's got to be the way he is. Don't ask him why. That's what he is. Adam has the ability to say, now I'll keep quiet. Now I'll talk. Now I won't do anything. Now I'll just rest. I'll sleep. Now I'll jump. Now I'll do exercise. Up and down. An Adam has control of himself, to be mevatel himself. That's the ultimate power of an Adam. Chachma, the sphere of Chachma, which is the ultimate of an Adam. Chachma is bittul. That's the nature of Chachma. Why is Chachma bittul? Look in the Tanya, will explain why Chachma is bittul. So an Adam, the ability of an Adam to stand and be mevatel himself, to completely nullify himself before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the ultimate state of an Adam. And that's what we do with Shmoneh Esrei. And Shmoneh Esrei is the most powerful Tfilah possible. Why? Because Shmoneh Esrei is where we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to change reality. All of Psukkah de Zimra, we're acknowledging reality. It is what it is. Whatever the world is, whatever it may be, we're acknowledging what the world is. We're saying it in a way of praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we're not, this is what the world is before us. Comes to Shmoneh Esrei, we say, no, now we're getting serious here. Now we're serious. You made the world this way. But you know something? You know what my opinion, Rabbeinu Shalom, is? I think you should change the world now a little bit differently the way I think it should be. You know what that is? You understand what that is? We're telling the Eibishter, no, we know a little better than you. You need to do something different. What does that mean? You made someone ill because in your scheme of the whole scheme of the world, that's the way it has to be. And now, Rabbeinu Shalom, Rafa'enu Hashem, you heal us, change it. Change it. You made the year, which may not have been such a successful year. Now, Rabbeinu Shalom, no. Rabbeinu Shalom, Baruch Leinu L'Shana Hazeh, change everything that you did up to now, your whole scheme from Machshava K'duma Da'ak, you also know what that means? All the way Machshava K'duma Da'ak, which you had all this plan perfectly planned out, and now it's saying, Rabbeinu Shalom, no, now I want you to change it. And the Rabbeinu Shalom is willing to listen to us to change it. Where have we risen to? How can you do that? You can only do it if you're bottle. If you are an ego, you expect the Eibishter to accept you and your egotistical desires. That's what the Eibishter has to jump to. It's the height of arrogance to ask the Rabbeinu Shalom to change things in the way they are in nature, or the way they are in his machshava. But when a Yid is in a state of bittul, he's standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a nobody. Not only that, we say Hashem's fosai tiftach. I can't even open my mouth. How can I stand before you directly now? That's Ka'abda Kamamora, we're standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How can I open my mouth in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I have to ask you, Rabbeinu Shalom, fosai tiftach. Open up my mouth. Ufi yageti losecha, then my mouth will repeat your praises. According to Chassidus, not praises that we say, praises that the Rabbeinu Shalom says about himself, we will simply repeat. We don't have any new phrases to say in Tfilah. We're simply, we are repeating word for word what the Eibishter says. So then, in that state of bittul, as a true Adam, then we can ask the Rabbeinu Shalom, Baruch Aleinu, Rafa'enu, Goel Yisrael, whatever bakosha we have for the Rabbeinu Shalom to change the reality of the world in conformity with our Tfilah. I went off on a little bit of I think I covered most of the things that you have here. In terms of a very important point, to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A lot of people that criticize davening say, what is davening? A shopping list? Let me tell you what I need. Go get it. That you give to your husband. You give him a shopping list and go get the things I need. That's the Rabbeinu Shalom. Well, what are you coming with a shopping list? The greatest tefillah is a shopping list. Most sublime tefillah is a shopping list. Why? Because every time you ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for something, you're acknowledging that He is the one that provides it for you. If you have a cold, shouldn't have a cold. Have a cold. You say, should I stand in Shmones and say, Rafael Hashem, please, I need to get out of this cold. You come to most people, say, you need to get out of the cold. Take vitamin C and zinc, and you get out of the cold. What are you davening to the Eibishter for the cold? Are you bothering the Eibishter because you have a cold? What's wrong with you? That's diminishing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a Yid says, Rabbeinu Shalom, I know you gave me this cold, and you're going to heal this cold because I'm asking you to heal me from this cold. That's the tefillah. That's acknowledgement of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whether it's a cold or an ingrown toenail, it doesn't matter what it is. Yes, ask the Eibishter for everything that you need and everything that you want, because the Eibishter is there to listen to you and He's the one who gives it to you, and you're admitting it. That itself makes you worthy of receiving it. Maybe you're not worthy of having your code attended to by Melech Malchi Amlochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when you come and say to the Rebbeinu, but yeah, but I know you are the one that's going to heal me. Say, acknowledge that. Okay, here's the refuah. So absolutely, you have to ask the Eibishter for everything you need. Of course, you have to have higher kavanas in Tfilah too. I don't have time for it now. You have to have higher kavanas too. But not to go away from the literal meaning of Tfilah, what it means. It's a very sublime thing to ask the Rabbeinu Shalom for all your mundane needs. What can I say? The rest, all I say is I'll give you a plug. Buy the book, buy the Siddurim, listen to the Shurim online, and learn how to daven, and you'll thank me for the rest of your life.
Amen. I agree. I think there were a couple of questions. Do you mind if I read them out to you?
I thought I covered the questions. I think I printed them out and I covered them.
No, I mean right now, like on the.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. All right, new questions, yeah.
If you're thinking about Baruch Ata, but you're up to 3 paragraphs later, your mind is still wondering. Does that? Do you have
a? If you're thinking about Baruch Ata, your mind is your mouth is not going to automatically wander off into the next phrasing. Okay? It's not going to happen.
So basically, if you're thinking about those words,
if you're thinking about those words, your mouth will stop.
Mm-hmm. It'll stop and it'll.
Because your mind is controlling your words, not the other way around.
Mm.
If it's a tape recorder, you would be right. But generally, mouths are connected to machshava. What do they say? Engage your brain before you open your mouth.
And then there's another question. It says, Rabbi, but sometimes davening feels like we keep speaking and davening, and it feels like I want a response, and I just keep asking and not hearing a response or anything. You have any thoughts on that?
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely. The reason we daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not because we expect a response. We daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we want to express ourselves. Sometimes we have a response that we experience. Sometimes we don't. But the important thing is self-expression. What do people want to do? Most people want to talk, not listen. So why, when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all of a sudden you don't want to talk, you want to listen? We want to, the whole idea of Tfilah is us expressing ourselves. Sometimes we're zoicha to hear HaKadosh Baruch Hu's response, or see or experience a response in whichever way it is. But when you feel emotionally moved by Tfilah, it is extremely satisfying. And the response is not even relevant. An emotional experience is what you're looking for. And you don't need a response to an emotional experience. If I come away from Tfilah and I feel uplifted, or I feel an Avos Hashem, or I feel close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in my own persona, so I did get an answer, didn't get an answer, so what? It's satisfying. It's when you're davening only with asking for a request and expecting to get an answer that it's like you're typing on AI or something. That's not what it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. I just being brief about the subject.
So there's a comment. I think we're used to self-expressing to other people. And the next question was, what if we keep davening for something that's not happening? How do we keep our hope and connection growing?
The getting something in return is not the objective of davening. It's communicating with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's Chassidim used to say they're going to daven, they're going to an important meeting. If you feel that you've communicated with HaKadosh Baruch Hu inside of you, Or you get or you don't get. But that's your tefillah. Your tefillah is your feeling of connection. So yes, we want to receive, but that's not the only objection of tefillah. And the fact of the matter is that when you do have a real experience in tefillah, it's extremely satisfying. And you don't even think about what result did I get it or did I not get it. The Rebbe Rashab once said, if hedonists would know the pleasure of tefillah, they would drop everything they do and they would run to daven.
I wonder if it's also the mindset of kind of like emunah and bitachon piece. That like when you're davening, you get that reboost.
You have a sense of feeling of communicating with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it is an exhilarating feeling.
Mm-hmm. There was, let me follow. How do you make it emotional? It doesn't feel like a connection, doesn't feel like communicating, especially if making it into a lamdanish thing.
We're not making it into lumdus. He said, the point that I made earlier was the pirush hamilus. The pirush hamilus is what's important. Just to think briefly the meaning of the deeper meaning. It draws in your whole machshava and emotion. It's not an easy process. It's a difficult work. It's a task, and it comes over a period of time. It's not something which you just pick up and you say, okay, now I know how to daven. No. It is a long-term training process.
And I think it connects back to what you were saying earlier about the words. And if you actually take the moment to think about them, then you would stop saying the rest of the words and you would connect to them. And I think that's what made a big difference when I took your course. It slowed things down when I needed to. When it was a time that it connected, it's like a clencher, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. Wow. Let me see if I got any more questions. I think that covered.
Okay, very well.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rabbi Kaplan.
Kol tov.
Kol tov. Thank you.